All right. So in the email we said they party and we party. I think at this time 6 years ago, I myself and a bunch of many people from Providence and 100,000, around the 100,000 Jews from all over America, all came to the Meadowlands, not that far from where Jason is right now, and they went to something called the Siyam Hashas, which was a party, a huge celebratory party for the finishing of the entire Talmud, a 7.5 year project. So that means we're about 6 years in, another year and a half or so. I think it's next summer, whatever it is. Will be when the party is the next completion, and there's hundreds of thousands, probably millions of people across the entire globe that all study the same page of Talmud every single day. Um, they do a new page every single day, but you have it that you could go to anywhere almost anywhere in the world of the Jewish community, and you almost can always find a Talmud. You can find a Talmud class, somebody who's giving it, and nowadays online, there's phenomenal classes online, and there's so many amazing projects that are do the dailies, and it's really phenomenal. So of course, when the wonderful world of Google and Facebook, they reminded me that this happened about 6 years ago. It was on New Year's Day. It was amazing. It was frigid, absolutely frigid, one of the coldest days of the year that year. And of course, it didn't make the difference, but it was phenomenal, beautiful. So here we are. We are in the Torah portion we're up to is Vayechi. Vayechi is the last portion of the first book of the Torah, of the first book of the 5 books of Moses, of the Chamishe Chumshei Torah. And that means that this Shabbos, as a global Jewish community, we are going to complete the first book of Bereshit, the first book of the Torah together. So Mazel Tov, which means that we have gotten together and talked about the portion. So we together as a group are also finishing up obviously we don't talk about every verse in the Torah of that week's portion, because then we would have to have a lot longer of a meetup. And but we always pick a topic from each portion. So it's really beautiful. And if you have any friends that want to join or want to join either the live or you want to join the recording, just let me know as we start the next book of Exodus next week. So just a quick reminder for that of the celebratory finishes, and we had and Jason's got a l'chaim for us over there, and
Always.
I have a l'chaim of Diet Pepsi, l'chaim. Okay, so we're also in this Torah portion though. Is the end of the life of Yaakov. Jacob passes away in this week's Torah portion. We've discussed many aspects of Yaakov's passing from the world. And one of the special ones, I do not recall if we've discussed this before, but you know what? If we did, it's good for review. It's all right. So it's nearing the end of Yaakov's life, and Yosef, who had spent 22 years away from his dad, living in Egypt, he has these wonderful two sons named Menashe and Ephraim. And these two boys are very unique because of the fact that they did not get the opportunity to grow up like the rest of Yaakov's grandchildren. The rest of Yaakov's grandchildren they grew up literally by the feet of Yaakov. They could study Torah with him. They could spend time with him. They could learn from the way that Yaakov lived his life. But these boys, Menashe and Ephraim, did not get that opportunity. And by the time Yaakov came down to Egypt, they weren't so young anymore. So Yosef wants to make sure that his boys get a special blessing from his dad because of the fact that they did not get to spend that much time with him. So Yosef brings his boys over, and he places them in front of Yaakov. He puts Menashe, who's the elder, by the right hand of Yaakov, and he places Ephraim, who's the younger child, by the left hand of Yaakov. And we know in Judaism, the right hand, sorry, any lefties out there, the right hand is known. That's right. The right hand is known for its strength, is known as the strength of God, the might. So anything that's going to come through the right hand, right, is gonna have an extra energy to it. That's a fun discussion. We could talk about it more. I started researching more also because the next son whose bar mitzvah is coming up in this coming summer. So he's a lefty. So I got to start getting down. There's a few laws, halachas, that are different for lefties. So we got to start studying some of those laws to know what things that I do with my right hand he does with his left hand. Interesting world of halacha. In fact, one is a very famous rabbi, phenomenal rabbi. You can look up his talks. Rabbi Pesach Kron, he should be well. He would, thank God he's doing well now, but he did have a stroke a year ago. And he actually, I think one of his kids is a lefty. So for his bar mitzvah, he put together a little pamphlet that goes through all the laws of the lefties. Okay, so over here, what happens? They're getting ready for the blessing, and Yaakov, who can't see so well because he's really getting near the end of his life, he takes his right hand and places it upon the head of Ephraim, who's the younger one. And he takes his left hand and puts it upon Menashe, who's the elder. Yosef says very nicely as he could to his dad, he says, Dad, I know you can't see so well, but I placed the children in the right spaces. Menashe's the elder, and Ephraim's the younger. So, Dad, you know about this whole blessing thing with rivalry and siblings. Let's give Menashe the blessing he's supposed to get. And Yaakov lets Yosef know. He says, do not worry, do not fear. I know what I'm doing over here. And Ephraim is, in fact, the one that's supposed to get this stronger blessing, which obviously we can spend a long time analyzing that, both from a world of psychology and from a world of Torah understanding of what is going on. Right? Yaakov, this is what caused so much trouble in Yaakov's life. The fact that the blessing that was going to be Esav's was given to Yaakov, and he had to take it from Esav, and right, like that sibling rivalry that started so many challenges that we still have today because of that wonderful love of Yaakov and Esav. Here we go, right here. Yaakov's doing this. He's switching the blessings over here. What's going on? We're not going to focus on that so much. That's a fun topic to research, and that's a deep topic, and we could do some research on that. But one idea I wanted to give over quickly is Yaakov is a very old man, and he's upon his deathbed. So why didn't Yaakov go ahead? Here, every movement that you make when you're in at that stage of life is really, a very tough, challenging thing to do. Is a very tough, challenging thing to do. Sorry. And why did Yaakov go ahead and switch his hands as opposed to asking the boys to switch places? Okay, good question. The simplest answer is, how would that have made them feel? It's one thing to switch the hands, right? And not actually have the boys switch places. That's a bigger ask of the boys, right? And that could have an impact on this whole rivalry, my blessing, your blessing, what's going on over here. So Yaakov didn't say anything, rather just switched his hands and gave the blessings to who was supposed to get them. That's one answer, the simple answer. Another idea that I saw, which I think I've written emails about in the past, I believe is from Rabbi Moshe Feinstein of blessed memory. And he says, what was Yaakov? Yaakov is teaching us a lesson in life, a lesson in parenting, a lesson in relationships, that we all like to say, I'm going to show that person how to behave differently. Or, I'm going to help that person learn how to behave properly. Or that guy's got that challenge. I'll help him change. We always think this concept of helping somebody else change, or they'll change eventually. And Yaakov's showing us this very, very simple. You can't make people change. We can go ahead and make changes within ourselves and how we deal with somebody else. But to make somebody change for us, that we can't do. You can always ask nicely, right? But you can't expect it. Perhaps you could but what you could do is you can set up the situation for them to succeed, or for your relationship to succeed. You can go ahead and make some changes with the way that you deal with that person or with that situation, with that, with that individual, so that you don't have the challenges that you've been having. Over here, Yaakov is telling us, when you want to deal with the next generation, because it's a great, great lesson for the world, right? When you want to deal with the next generation, don't think that you're going to make that generation fit into your box, or the way that it used to be in the good old days, right? That's not the way it works. We can go ahead and suggest things. We can go ahead and show certain types of things, or we can change the way that we interact with the situation and try to impact and try to influence and try to help others. But for us to go ahead and think that we're going to change it, it's not going to work. So Yaakov's saying, look, Yosef, I'm going to give you a lesson, Yosef, for the rest of your life when dealing with your kids, when dealing with the future of people. Make a change within yourself so that you have the ability to spend your quality time, to spend your important time, to impart important lessons and life-changing lessons to others by making that change within yourself. Because all we ultimately can control is ourselves and the way that we deal with things. So this is what Yaakov is saying over here. He's on his deathbed as an opportunity over here where he's about to impart these amazing blessings to these kids. So much so that blessing that Yaakov gives over to these kids is a blessing that is used on Friday nights and perhaps before Yom Kippur, when parents give a blessing to their child. They say when I give a blessing to a son, we say that they should merit to be like Ephraim and Menashe. And that's what Yaakov, part of the blessing that Yaakov gave over to them. And the famous Hamalach HaGoel that we say every single night as part of our good night routine. We say Hamalach HaGoel, Osimi Korah. This is the blessing that Yaakov gives over, this blessing. And it's used every single day. Every single day and every Friday night it's used, which is amazing. A blessing that was stated in the Torah a long time ago, right? At this point, almost 4,000 years ago is when this blessing was given over. And to this day, it is used by the Jewish world. And this is something that's very, very special. And obviously we should think about, and we have our own kids. We should give this blessing over to them, definitely this weekend. If we don't have our own kids, we can give it over to somebody else, or we can ask someone to give it to us. And also at night, at least for this weekend, we could add these words that are said as part of it's called the nighttime Shema, has in there this beautiful verse of how the angels should go ahead and protect us while we're sleeping, and bring about this concept of that we should have the evil eye should stay away from us. And this is the blessing that Yaakov gave over to Yosef's children, to Ephraim and Menashe. But one more piece, which maybe we've mentioned in the past, but it's good for us to think about now, because, like we discussed off air, we talked about how we're, it's New Year's Eve, right? We're heading into, in America, it's an American holiday. Is it a religious holiday? Whatever it might be. But we're living our lives in the world of exile, right? We're in the Exodus over here. We're in the diaspora. In times where we don't have the Beis HaMikdash, we don't have Mashiach, the Jewish nation is not in its full beauty and glory. And Hashem's not in his full beauty and glory in the world. We just can't see him as well. So Menashe and Ephraim were chosen specifically because they remained righteous and they lived Jewish lives, even though they were separate from the rest of the Jewish people of the time. Even though they grew up in Egypt, as opposed to growing up around Yaakov and all the rest of the family, they fit right in. Yaakov says to Yosef, your two boys are going to be just like the rest of the tribes. Even though you've been separate, because you've done such a beautiful job with these kids, they don't think that, they grew up in a different area and therefore they don't merit to be like the rest of everybody else, because they're not like everybody else. No. Even though they were in exile and away from the family, even though they were from the most disgusting communities or kingdoms in the world, ever, really, the Egyptian society of that time. Just absolutely, we'll learn more and more about the history of the Egyptian world. Not such a PG community, and they still merited to be righteous individuals that were living lives of whatever Judaism meant at that point. So that's specifically the children that are chosen to be used as the blessing for future generations. It's those boys, Menashe and Ephraim, that grew up in that society with still sterling, sparkling, bright, beautiful individuals. They're the ones that show us that even though we never saw the Beis HaMikdash, we never saw the temple, we never saw the tabernacle, we never saw any of that, still, even though that it's a beautiful proof to ourselves and to the world that even though we might be growing up in a different society, a different world that doesn't always agree with what we're doing, we can shine bright and we can accomplish amazing things. So God willing, on this holiday weekend of America and beyond and the world, let's make sure that we try to shine bright as Jews and know that we can do it. even though it's not what the world around us is saying to do or how to behave or what the things that are important, we can shine bright. The Judaism is bright and beautiful, and there's so much awesomeness there. And believe me, we're not missing much. If we do the Jewish routine, right, and keep that going, we're not missing much in the world because there's not much out there that we can't participate in or that we should participate in, whichever way you want to look at it. It's there's Judaism's got so much there. So we get to have 2 New Years to reflect on life, right? We have our Jewish New Year and we have our societal New Year. So we can do a little introspection over here, think about how we're doing in our Jewish journey, our own personal journeys. And God willing, we should merit to an amazing year, and we should merit to shine bright and beautiful, even though we're in the exile, even though we are waiting for the Exodus and to go back to our homeland, to have it in its full beauty. But God willing, we should merit to have that speedily in our day.
Amen.
Amen.